heart of a man is a battlefield, not of soil and stone, but of fire and storm. Within you, emotions rise like armies: anger, fear, despair, pride, each seeking the throne of your spirit. If you do not master them, they will master you. And a man ruled by his emotions is no warrior at all. He is a city already fallen. The wilderness teaches this truth without mercy. The desert does not bend to your feelings. The wind does not pity your weakness. It strips you until all that is false is gone, and only what is anchored endures. So too must you strip your soul, until the tempest within obeys the voice of the Lord. Blessed be the Lord my strength, which teacheth my hands to war, and my fingers to fight. Psalm, chapter 144, verse 1. It is not the hand alone he trains for battle, but the spirit within. For the hand that holds the sword without ruling the heart will cut in rage, and rage blinds more surely than darkness. The warrior of God is not the man who never feels anger, sorrow, or fear, but the one who bends them to obedience, who makes them servants of discipline rather than masters of his soul. And so the gauntlet is thrown. If the Lord called you to stand today, stripped of all comfort, would you stand or break? This is the first trial of mastery, not to silence your emotions, but to command them, to hear the roar of anger and turn it into justice, to feel the weight of sorrow and forge from it compassion, to face the terror of the night and yet move forward as though clothed in light. The Templar oath was never to ease, but to discipline. They learned to ride into fire with calm, to pray in silence while swords clashed, to carry both blade and cross without letting either fall. Their enemies feared not only their steel, but their composure. For a man who does not flinch cannot be broken. This is the discipline that terrifies hell, to feel the storm rise within and yet remain unmoved, to hear the whispers of chaos and yet choose silence, to taste the ash of despair and yet stand in hope. The emotions of a man are fire. Undisciplined, they consume him. Disciplined, they become light in the darkness. So steel your spirit. Fix your gaze on the rock that does not move. Let your emotions bow before your will, and your will bow before your God. For only then will you begin to master the man you were meant to be. The man who cannot rule his spirit is already conquered. No enemy needs to breach his walls. The gates stand open, and the shadows march in unchallenged. Emotions left untamed do not remain small. They multiply. They sharpen themselves against your weakness until they strike at the hour of trial. Discipline is the stone and mortar of your fortress. It is the watchtower that never sleeps, the lamp that does not go out, the hand on the sword even in silence. Without it, the smallest spark of anger becomes wildfire, the faintest whisper of fear becomes an avalanche, the quiet seed of envy becomes a forest of ruin. He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. Proverbs, chapter 25. Verse 28. To master your emotions is to rebuild the walls of your soul, stone by stone. Each refusal of temptation is a brick laid. Each prayer uttered instead of wrath is a gate reinforced. Each act of obedience is a tower raised against the storm. But here I command you to halt. Do not look outward to the enemies at your gate, look inward. What sin, what chain, still holds your sword arm from striking? Name it, and you have already dragged it into the light. Hide it, and it will rule you. Every man carries chains, but only the disciplined drag them to the altar where they can be broken. The watchman on the wall does not sleep because the enemy prowls always. So too must you keep watch over your spirit. Guard your heart when no one sees. Command your emotions when no one hears. For discipline is not a single battle won. It is a war fought daily in silence. The Templar did not wait for the field of blood to learn self-control. They mastered their hearts in the cloister, in prayer, in fasting, in the hours when the world thought them idle. So when the trumpet called, they did not tremble, for they had already fought the greater war within. This is your task: to wrestle the storm of your emotions until they obey, to seize your anger and turn it to courage, to seize your grief and turn it to steadfastness, to seize your fear and make it fuel for faith. Hell trembles not at the man with sharp steel, but at the man with a sharp spirit. For even if his sword shatters, his will remains, and no darkness can breach such walls. The cross is heavier than the sword. Steel cuts once and is done, but the cross presses without ceasing. It is laid upon your shoulders at dawn, and it does not depart until nightfall. This is not the burden of defeat. It is the burden of covenant. A man does not become who he was meant to be by chasing desire. He becomes it by crucifying it. The world will call indulgence freedom, but indulgence enslaves. Obedience alone sets a man free. Every chain that ever broke a warrior was forged from his own craving. Every crown that endured was bought by sacrifice. If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Luke, chapter 9, verse 23. The Garden of Gethsemane is where the true battle begins. There, when even friends sleep and betrayal draws near, the soul is crushed like olives beneath the press. It is in that silence the choice is made: flee or kneel and say, "Not my will, but thine." The man who can say this has already won more than 1,000 battles with blades. The discipline that terrifies hell is not the roar of a soldier in daylight. It is the whisper of surrender at midnight. It is the unseen obedience that binds the heart when no eye watches. It is the daily death to self, the daily refusal to let the old man breathe again. The cross is not your shame. It is your honor. It is the proof that you belong not to yourself, but to the King. And to carry it is to command your emotions until they bend to obedience. Do not flee the weight. Do not cast it aside. The Son bore it to the end, and if you follow him, you must bear it too. Not once in some glorious act, but every day, in silence, in hidden choices, in the wrestling of your soul. Here lies the crucible of mastery: to stand when sorrow tells you to collapse, to walk when fear tells you to turn back, to obey when anger tells you to rebel, to kneel when pride tells you to rise against God. This is how the warrior is proven, not by the noise of his victories, but by the silence of his obedience, not by how he commands others, but by how he rules himself. So grip your cross. Grip it tighter than your sword. Let it become the weight that trains your soul, the fire that tempers your spirit, the covenant that makes you unshakable. For only he who dies daily shall rise eternal. The summit is not reached in haste. It is carved through years of silence, through nights of fire, through the scars of battles no one else saw. Every unseen victory brought you here. Every prayer whispered in secret. Every temptation resisted. Every tear shed in obedience. They have paved this ascent. The final gate rises before you now, not built of stone or wood, but of eternity. The gates of Zion stand unmoved, unbroken, waiting for those who endured. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. Revelation, chapter 3, verse 5. This is the promise and the warning. White garments for those who conquer themselves, who endure to the end, who let their emotions bow to the discipline of faith. But for the rest, for the fallen, there is no crown. And so I put the last cut to you. When the trumpet sounds and the gates are closed, will your name be found among the faithful, or the fallen? This is no question to answer with lips. Your scars will speak. Your discipline will testify. Your unseen obedience will rise as witness when every voice is silenced. Hell does not fear the man who begins with fire. It fears the man who ends with faith. The man who still carries his cross when others cast theirs away. The man who still kneels when others flee. That man is unshakable, for his name is already sealed where darkness cannot reach. On that day, when the heavens split and the rider comes clothed in fire, and the hosts march behind him in unison, the question will not be how you felt, but how you stood. Did you let your emotions rule you, or did you rule them by the covenant of obedience? Did you tremble before fear, or did you stand unmoved before the storm? Did you serve your pride, or did you kneel before your king? The emotions of man are strong, but they are not sovereign. Your covenant is stronger. Your oath is eternal. And if you keep it, no flame can consume you, no shadow can unmake you, no enemy can blot your name from the book of life. So rise now as one already chosen. Walk as one already crowned. Fight as one already written in the book. Let your emotions bow before your spirit, and your spirit bow before your God. For the day is coming when the trumpet will sound, the gates will shut, and only those who endured will stand within. Be among them. Be found faithful. Be the man you were meant to be.